I do not recommend what I'm about to do. All right, here's our instructions, which we will promptly... Hope I need no instructions. Lube her up real good. Alright, we're back with the old Mystic Cobra. And today, since we already got, you know, the radiator and the condenser and all this just so open, we're going to go ahead and do the water pump today. Should be super easy. Simple job. For y'all, it'll be much shorter than it is for me, but we're going to get it done. So, but before we do that, we got to go in here to our cave of goodies, and the water pump is this one, I believe. Hey, more stickers. Add Edelbrock to our pile of stickers. This is it. Water pump, new water pump gasket. Should be pretty straightforward. So, sorry I don't give y'all the really satisfying unboxing video. I unboxed everything as I got it when I ordered it, just to make sure what I got was what I ordered. But what we got here, damn it, is a Edelbrock Victor water pump. Should go rather nicely with our 3-core radiator. Very nice. I'll do a side-by-side of the factory water pump and that one to show you the difference on the vanes, on how it's supposed to move more water. But first, we're going to get these 4, I believe they're 10 millimeter. Let's see what we got here. Well, if I can get an angle on it. Actually, before I do any of that, being an idiot, let's take the tension off this pulley. Go ahead and get the serpentine belt off here. We've got a 1/2 inch little breaker. Well, it's a 3/8 ratchet with a 1/2 inch adapter. Okay, I can't do this with one hand. Y'all have to hold on a second. Alright, we're back. Belt came off. Pretty simple. And this actually looks in really good condition. I mean, we're probably going to replace it anyway, but you know, if it comes down to it, we'll use that one. Alright, here's our instructions, which we will promptly... Hope I need no instructions. Alright, in case you didn't know, to get the pulley off, or not the pulley, the serpentine belt, get you a 1/2 inch breaker. I just got a 3/8 to 1/2 inch adapter. Put it in there, press down. There's your tension pull or tensioner right there, and everything just kind of snakes off. Pretty simple. And there's not much to it. If I can do it, you can do it. All right. Let's get the rest of these. Are all 10 millimeter bolts. Nice view of my feet for y'all. We're gonna keep track. Hang on. Gonna keep track of all these bolts so we don't lose them. You get the idea. I'll be back. All right, pulley's off. Super simple. I mean, there's not much to it. You get those 4 bolts off. This just comes right off. Nothing to it. And then you have 4 13 millimeter bolts. One here, one here, one here, and then one It's gonna be kind of hard to show you the light. One right, well, phone shadow's in the way. One right there at the bottom. So I'm gonna take these 4 bolts off, and we'll be back. So we got our old water pump out. Doesn't look that bad in there. It looks really good. But we're probably gonna, you can see, if I can get this out. You can see some, like, not corrosion, but just junk. It's like part of the old O-ring. We're gonna clean all this out before we install our new stuff. But I can now show y'all, there's a new O-ring. Side by side of the old pump and the new pump. Hang on. Alright, so here's our side by side. I think the light makes it worse. So this is the old pump. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it, but we're upgrading the radiator. There's more water or coolant to be shooting around, so I mean, we might as well. Closed vein, and this is our new one. This is our Edelbrock Victor Performance water pump, and should be a nice little upgrade. Is identical. Oh, actually, it looks a hair bit taller. I don't know. We're about to work it out. Before we do, we're gonna clean all that out. Alright, so before we get all the way started, one, I did not need to buy a O-ring. I didn't think the pump came with one, and as you can see, right there, new O-ring. But if you look at this one, it looks like it's like become part of the metal. You can see the old, I don't know if that was silicone or what, but yeah, that's the old O-ring. Nice and shiny. While we're on the subject of O-rings, while you're installing yours, or well, prepping everything, let's see if I can get to focus. If you notice right there, this groove right in between, I mean, you can hit it with your finger. It's small, it's not a huge indentation, but that is where your O-ring is going to sit. See this little groove going right down the middle? That's where your O-ring is going to seat and seal. So that, I mean, all of it needs to be clean, but that paramount needs to be as clean as you can get it without being abrasive. This isn't an all aluminum block, so don't be crazy with it. You'll actually end up doing more harm than good. But that is needs to be a focus. So that's what I'm about to focus on for the next few minutes, and I'll get back with you. Water pump hole is, or well, nice and clean and ready for the new pump. Alright, so when you're getting ready to put in your new pump, this O-ring right here, hang on, let me see if y'all can see this. The O-ring right here, you need to get your finger, get you some coolant, or whatever coolant you're going to use, and soak this up real good so whenever you're installing it in the block, it doesn't pinch against the block itself and cause a seal not to work. Also, beforehand, whenever I was uninstalling the factory one, you undo the 4 bolts, and more than likely your water pump, if you're replacing it, hasn't been out in a long time, so you may have to give a little love tap. I didn't have a rubber mallet. I had an actual mallet. Rubber mallet would be preferable. Alright, now, if it does not sit all the way flush against the block, that's fine. You can draw it in with the bolts. Being very careful to not, just don't over tighten it. The ratchet I'm using, the Milwaukee, goes to 55 foot-pounds, and I think the torque on these is about 30. So you're gonna do it like a star pattern, like you would on a car. Don't do it all the way around. Star pattern it. And then draw it in nice and slow. Sorry, neighbor came over, wanted to chit chat. So night has fallen upon us. Need to get the flashlight out. Put the water pump pulley, or the water pump pulley back on. It's just 4 10mm bolts. There's nothing to it, and water pump done. Next step, we're gonna go ahead and do the plugs and wires. I mean, you can see it's filthy. Oh, man, it's better without the light. Filthy, but we're gonna get the plugs and wires. To start, there are these little bolts. These little rounded, I think they are 11mm. So these little 11mm bolts are here. They're on these little studs. They come right off, no problemo. You lift this little plastic cover and ta-da! Plugs. Easy squeezy. Now look, it's you can see on here, they are numbered. Keep them that way. So when you trace it and you're changing out your plugs and wires, this plug, make sure it goes to the correct coil every time. Well, you know, when you replace this one, you get the idea. Make sure each wire corresponds with the correct plug that it was assigned to. Alright, so back into the cave of goodies. Ah, goodness gracious. Get our plug, our wires, plugs.
Number 4.
That's right, number 4. Alright, so if you've never done spark plugs before, they're very easy. Like I said before, it says 1. Whenever you trace it, wherever the coil goes to, that's going to be your number 1 coil. So whenever you place the wires, make sure, let's say this one, say this corresponds to this, make sure whenever you replace all the wires and plugs, that this wire, or whatever you replace it with, goes back to this. It's very simple, and whenever these just pull right out. And can't see, spark plug is down in there. All you need is a spark plug socket over there. We got our Ford Racing 9mm spark plug socket, or spark plug wires. These are, let's see if you can see, 8mm, so we're going up a whole millimeter. I've read a bunch of reviews and opinions. If it really doesn't matter one way or the other, but we're going to replace it with bigger wires anyway, just in case. We got our Motorcraft spark plugs, and I'm gonna, let's see if I can get a light on here. Hang on. So we're gonna try and clean this mess up and make it look nice and pretty. Alright, plugs and wires all done. It's getting late, but Ford Racing, in their infinite wisdom, actually labeled that wires with a firing order. So you got 4, 2, there's 6, 5. So it was really easy to match where they need to go. There are different lengths, so it makes sense to have them individually numbered. Here are the old plugs. None of them seem to be like real fouled or anything, and they're fine. But if we're doing everything else, we might as well do plugs and wire, or plugs. Like I said, these are 9mm, a little bit bigger, Ford Racing. Don't mind the mess. It looks like a spider web right now. The main purpose of this was just to get the plugs and the coils matched up to where they need to be. I could not put in the new spark plugs because I don't have a spark plug gapper. They're like 20 cents at the counter of every auto parts store. Just didn't think to grab one because the ones in the box are gapped much smaller than the ones that came out. So, I mean, everything's covered. The plugs are covering the holes in the head, so nothing's going to get down in there. So tomorrow, I will get some dielectric grease to go in between the connectors and the coil pack, as well as the plugs and, well, the wires and the plugs. And we're gonna have it all nice and neat. We're gonna get all these these little wire runners, I guess, or little cable clips. We're gonna have it all organized, nice and pretty and neat. But water pump, plugs, and wires are done. It's late. I'm tired. I'm out of here.